Yeah, so serverless is kind of funny. It's definitely buzzwordy, but it's also absolutely hitting that point in the curve where it's getting industry adoption, and it's getting adoption at small startups and hacker projects and then enterprises as well. So it's worth discussing. It also has sort of, it's not, whenever you make it generalization, it doesn't always apply to everything, but there is some group of people that are very much in the no servers lists will ever work. And I'm hardcore on containers. And there's some people that are like, containers are dead. It's time to go to serverless. So taking it, a couple people that are like pretty firmly in the containers camp and having them talk about what serverless is and what it means to them and what it can be used for, I think is an interesting approach, because a lot of the content that's out there right now is very much like serverless by serverless fans for other serverless fans. And that echo chamber makes it hard for new people to get started. Sweet.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the stream, Kris.
Thanks. I was great. I was saying the most profound thing literally ever.
Right.
Which was no, I think it's easy for people to bypass a lot of where serverless came from. We saw this with Kubernetes. We see this with containers, and like it's like, oh, it's the new thing. We're going to use serverless, and everybody kind of lost track of like what we were doing from an engineering perspective to even get here in the first place.
Right. So what'll pretty commonly happen in the movie industry, they talk about often a 30-year cycle, which is why you get movies like Back to the Future written in the 80s about the 1950s. It's a big hit. Similarly, today you get all these movies about and TV shows about the 80s, that's the 30-year cycle. From my limited experience, it seems like computers and especially infrastructure, try to choose a name that it's going to be true in 5 years and 5 years ago, seems to be on about a 5-year rebirth cycle, right? Where everything that was hot 5 years ago gets thrown away and then reinvented as if it was new. Serverless, I don't think follows into that mold, but and this is what we're going to do on the stream today, we're going to talk about how these serverless ideas are not brand spanking new. And they've actually been around in computers for a long time. And we're going to play with certainly my first experience with one of these things called xinetd today.
Okay,
in order to... Yeah.
I have a question. Because honestly, the first time when we were talking about this a couple of days ago, you telling me about xinetd was the first time I had really like heard of it. And the first time you said it, I was like, oh yeah, xinit. Like, I know what xinit is. It's like the old systemd that we all grew up with and we all like loved. And then I started Googling while you were talking, so I actually could pretend like I knew what in the heck I was talking about. And I discovered it's different. It's different than xinit, and it's a completely standalone project that it kind of exists on its own.
Right. So the xinetd, and it's important to say it's x. I'll type it in the chat for anybody. It's xinetd, and it, as all good things, replace something called inetd. And this is the newer, better one, and has nothing to do with the X server. So those are some early prerequisites.
Okay.
It also largely predated my professional use of Unix. While I've set it up for work for someone who paid me money dollars, when you do it even 10 years ago, and certainly now, you're doing it for a very specific kind of random esoteric use case, right?
Yeah.
Which is much smaller than what it used to do. What it used to do was a whole lot of stuff. And the systemd comparison is not bad, because the literal name for this, if you run man xinetd, which I don't think will work on our current system because we haven't installed it yet, I think it calls itself the internet superserver. And the story, just to cut to the chase here, and the connection to serverless is very simple. Back in the day, when your enterprise had one big server, hopefully bought from Sun Microsystems, but we accept all kinds here on this stream.
Yeah.
It had a lot of power, and it had a lot of users, and it had a lot of different things it would do. This is a time before the modern era, and it's a time before there was this focus first on putting a single application into a single virtual machine, and then on putting a single application into a Docker machine or container or whatever. The focus was one server needs to do everything and have enough power to do it all at the same time. And that created a challenge of, well, how do you run everything all at the same time? And the answer is you don't. What you do is what everything has always done forever, which is time sharing. And that is what xinetd functionally does. It's very much like if you've heard of systemd port activation, that's what it does. It listens, it's a very small program that listens on maybe 10 different ports that you've configured it on. And then the computer doesn't run the daemons behind those ports. So I don't know if you want to share the screen, we can look at Etsy services.
Yeah, go for it. To share the screen, we need to be in a tmux or something first.
Okay. Do we have tmux installed? Okay. Is this apt? Oh, there's no apt.
It's Pac-Man. Sorry, it's Arch Linux. I'm sorry, Spencer. let me get it for us. And why I do that, I can kind of give folks an idea of what we're looking at here as well, which is we have a Raspberry Pi sitting next to me on my desk. It's running ARM64 Arch Linux. It's running Manjaro, which is like Manjaro is to Arch Linux as Linux Mint is to Debian.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. And so we want to install tmux, so we use a tool called Pacman, or I use PacR, and we're going to try to install tmux. There's one reason why I like Arch Linux, and it's because the package manager is called Pacman, and when you install things, it actually looks like Pacman is coming across the screen. Did somebody change the password? This was working this morning.
Did we already get hashtag rooted?
Did we already get rooted?
Is that the...
Try, so there's me and you here. So we can see my screen if you're looking at my screen, so maybe you can help me debug this really quick. Okay,
oh my God, that screen looks so good.
Oh, this is another thing I wanted to tell you about. Okay,
Why
so...
does it looks so good.
I'm so excited you brought this up. Okay, so let's put getting hacked on pause for a moment because this is more important. So this is an emulation of an old IBM mainframe that we're looking at. And I picked it out just IBM? Yeah, I picked it out just for you because you work at IBM. So I wanted to like have. I'm using a tool called Cool Retro Term, and you can see it comes with like all of these different like simulated, like you can do like the Apple II, and it'll actually like look like an old Apple II. Yeah. So anyway, I really liked the IBM 3278, and that's what we're using here. Like, and it even does like the screen burn in, so like you can see.
Yeah, I saw it when it shifted. There was like a ghosting, I guess is what they might call that.
Yeah.
I got it. Hold on. There's an S at the end.
Oh, are you root now?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Okay, hold on. Let me try this. Sorry. Sudo bash. Yeah, I still can't get it.
I'm in.
You're in.
I'm in. Here, I'll just Pacman. Pac AUR.
Cap S dash capital S tmux.
Is it good? Do you have to do the little s too, or just cap S?
Just dash capital S. That's it. 2 characters.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I can't perform this operation as root.
So you have to escalate to root during the command when you're using PacR. So you have to go back to the Nicole user, execute PacR cap S tmux, and then it'll prompt you for your sudo password. No, I was gonna say we should totally do a whole episode on running tools as root, because this whole problem is getting escalated to Kubernetes right now. Like there's people building like sudo tools for Kubernetes so that you can like have access to like kubesystem as like a sudo user, and they're repeating the same problems of root tools that we're seeing right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So if you run a tmux attach, I think you'll get in. Okay. Welcome.
Hi.
We did it. Yeah. And if you go to the first window, there's our little root shell just hanging out, ready to do some system administration.
How do I go to the first? How do I go to the first window?
Control B0.
Sorry, I'm a screen girl.
I was for a long time. I wish I would go back sometimes. haven't made it back recently.
Nice.
TMUX is pretty nice. So anyways, what I wanted to do now that we're here is to do something like head Etsy services. So in the past, you and your group of system administrators, or whatever you called yourselves at the time, sysops maybe, used to run the big iron, and you had all these services that you were sort of expected to run. I don't want to run you out of screen time. Oh, do we not have less?
No, we should have less.
Yeah. And so if you look at the first, say, 100 lines or so of Etsy services, there's a bunch of services that no one runs in the modern world. The Echo service.
Oh, gosh.
Daytime service.
I was talking about Echo just the other day.
Quote of the day. A bunch of different flavors of FTP, telnet, mail is port 25 or something like that. Odd. I don't even know what the wrap service is running on port 38, but seems pretty legit. Like maybe we need that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we need these beats. So you were responsible sort of for running all these different services. There was part of an explosion of what was expected to be available on the network, because while most of your users were pretty much on your system, they still expected to be able to connect to other systems. And oftentimes what you do at that point in computing was sort of just write in the same way that we would write a simple Discord bot to read like air quality index out of some website, people would write little telnet clients and things like that. So you were expected to sort of keep all these services running, but you didn't actually have enough RAM to run them all at the same time. So what you did is you ran the xinetd server, which listens on all the ports that it's configured to do. It waits for sort of a TCP connection to come in, and when it gets it, it spins up the daemon and lets you talk to it for a while. My memory was that there was a flow where xinetd would turn off services that hadn't seen any use in a while. But
interesting.
In my memory, and reality may have been different, because I have been spending the last couple of days looking for confirmation of that fact, and I have not found it. But to give you a sense of how important this daemon was and at what time it was important, I'll refer you to the Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4 reference guide.
Oh, which has goodness gracious. I thought we were friends, Spencer.
Red Hat 4. I mean, what are we on? We're on Red Hat 8 now?
Yeah.
I don't know when Red Hat 4 came out. I guess I can Google it.
We can definitely pull this up.
This thing launched in 2000, 20 years ago, and its latest release. Oh no, I'm sure there's somebody paying for extended support on RHEL 4, but it came out in the year 2000, and in the RHEL 4 reference documentation, chapter 17 is entirely dedicated to TCP wrappers and xinetd. And what they do in this documentation is they sort of lay out multiple layers of not just spawning services responding to network connectivity, but a whole sort of layered piece of security, layers of security to prevent. And one of the things that xinetd can do, and it's interesting because it kind of plays into Kubernetes, about how Kubernetes really just launches the program, and Kubernetes decides when and where to do it. And the program all of a sudden doesn't know why it's been launched, and its only job is to launch, right? xinetd sort of plays a similar role, where it's like, I'm going to run quote of the day. Quote of the day doesn't need to know anything. I'm just going to give it packets if it's supposed to. But xinetd and other tools have this ability to say, like, well, if these IP addresses try to contact me, I'll allow it and launch quote, send you to quote of the day. But if these IPs do it, then I'm not going to launch the quote of the day server and stuff like that. And this is how you go ahead.
I was going to say, so it's basically just like interpretive, like network resolution. Like it's whitelist, blacklist, or allow list, deny list, but for services.
Yeah, there's some components to that, and there's timeouts and all kinds of things. So I think that what we should do, and I guess we're going to launch this on Arch, which is going to be interesting. But I'm really excited to try to go through this. We're Red Hat 4 documentation and try to apply it to our brand new Arch system. This is going to be super fun. So I have a little list of things I think we should try to do. I think we should try to just bring up an xinetd and see if we can get it to run something basic. For those following along at home, what's common is the place you might see xinetd like in your just home lab is around a TFTP server, which is a program called Trivial File Transfer Protocol, and is largely used in like bare metal provisioning. So it's not unlikely that the audience may have seen this before. Okay.
Let's do it.
So I think is it SS will search?
Yep, that'll search. So the Pacman. So there's Pacman and PacR. Pacman only does the official repositories, and PacR does all of the AUR Arch user repositories, which are the unofficial user supported. It's where all the good stuff is.
Oh, yeah, that's where.
Yeah.
It's the good stuff and the stuff that brings you back to the Arch Linux IRC channel. Like, hey, it's busted.
Yes, exactly.
Ran somebody's wireless LED script, and now my computer doesn't have a backlight. All right, but
help.
xinetd appears to be in the core, I guess you'd call that.
Yeah, just the official repository.
So Eric says his first rel was used in prod. Oh, you used 4. You used rel 4. I've never touched a rel 4 system. I think I touched some rel 5 systems back in the day.
Are you trying to just list processes?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that, but I thought PSDF would work.
This is usually how I do it.
Is that the BSD style? All right, yeah, sweet. Let's do it.
There you go.
I guess check to see if xinetd is running.
Okay. xinetd? No.
Okay, so it's off, and then so maybe like a system cuddle list units grep xinet. Okay, so we don't even have a system cuddle. We have an xinet. Yeah, we do have an xinetd.d, and we have an xinetd.conf.
Yep.
All of these services seem super safe to run.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I really like how this is turning into Nova and Spencer run Arch Linux.
Yeah, well, next time we'll do it on rel 4. Okay. So we gotta, I guess, wire up ourselves some kind of configuration file. I think the first thing to do is to try to get a service running on it. So I think that xinetd.conf has overalls with an include, which is sort of what you see here. What do you know what the talk server is?
What the talk server is?
Well, it says a daemon called talk in there. I have no idea what this does. My concern is that everything in xinetd.d, starting with one of the ones they shipped us, seems great.
Okay.
Most of these look like a little sketchy, right? RLogin, RSH, and telnet, I don't really want to turn on. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Eric said it looks like the talkd lets you echo text to other TTYs.
I don't even know what that would mean.
What does it mean? I think it's like it's like echo, which just basically was a small. I kind of look at it like just like an IRC bouncer, but for TTYs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's turn it on and see what happens. This is a relatively isolated system, right?
Yeah, no, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to use this setup is, I mean, we have a static public IP address, and we have an ARM64 server that we can do whatever we want to with. So, in a weird way, I almost want us to get hacked.
Yeah. I have no idea what's happening. I think we should get the Echo server installed. How's that sound?
Well, we can also do telnet, can't we? Telnet's easy.
We can do telnet. If we're going to do telnet, let's do it like sort of correct and create like a crappy user, and that user's not allowed to do anything or something that doesn't have like sudo.
Okay,
let's at least do that. So add user, bad user. No, we don't have an ad user.
No, I've been using stereotypical girl names. So let's do, we have Alice, we have Emily, we have Nicole. Let's do Sarah or Sally.
It's legit.
Let's do Sally. Sally doesn't have any permissions.
Okay.
This is kind of like the vanilla version that pretty much is just like no commands or like no groups right out of the bat, and we can add things as needed.
Yeah, if it's no groups, its own home dir, and we have reasonable like permissions and nothing really running on the system. A regular Unix user doesn't have a ton of escalation paths.
Yeah.
It's when you install like an outdated version of Tomcat that all of a sudden the local Unix user is equivalent to root.
Yeah. And bin bash is okay for our shell.
Yeah.
And our password is going to be, we'll leave it without a password for now. We can change the password later. All right.
Well, I think we need a password. We need to tell that in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. So let's do this. Okay, so now we can su root. And from root, can I fix this really quick?
Yeah, please.
All right. I copied this over from my Novix system, is why. And then from here, let's su Sally. Sally's password is going to be, how about the same one? That we've been using for everything else?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. We want to do it this way. Password Sally. New password. Okay, cool. And so now we should be able to exit to Nicole, and I should be able to switch to Sally and enter Sally's password, and now we're Sally. Okay, and if we go to our home directory, we're in home Sally, and if we list, we have Sally user group. Oh, it would be cool if our username was Silly and our group was Sally.
Oh my god, that would be too much. Okay, so now if we do an, do we have SS? Is that what Arch has done to me? Yes. Okay.
We can get netstat too. Just grab net tools.
I can SS.
Go for it.
I'm gonna type if config and netstat until I die, but I can use the new ones. So we're only listening on these ports right now. I think if we start xinetd, we will listen on the ports. I mean, we have to like evaluate our config file.
Yeah.
I'm gonna exit out of Sally if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, do you mind if I install Vim? I know you're kind of an Emacs person.
It's okay. I like you.
Okay.
I'll let you get away with it this time. I mean, to be fair, like I like Emacs because like I hate myself. Once I set up Arch Linux, it took me like an hour. Like Arch Linux took 5 minutes, and then it was an hour to get everything I needed to get Emacs installed.
Of course.
But we have Emacs. We probably broke everything else along the way, but we have Emacs installed, so now I can at least play Snake during the stream.
And when I learned how to use a computer, Unix stuff, they very much beat into my head that you're going to find yourself every day on random busted servers and stuff. So learn VI, don't even learn Vim. Like learn the thing that will always be there.
That's
so,
how
like,
I am with Nano, honestly.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this disable to no. And then I'm going to validate user bin telnetd. And then I'm going to systemctl start xinetd. This is another tool that's like happy to run as not root. I don't care.
Do it.
Isn't that weird that I'm in this, my sudo timeout is not expired, but it still wants me to authenticate. It's not that weird. It's
not that weird.
So PSEF doesn't work on this system for some reason. Really would like to know why. But we do have an xinetd.
Who PSEFs? I've never even heard of this before. I've been PS oxing for like a decade.
At the risk of saying something untrue, because it's how I think about it, I think your aux is your BSD type and your EF is sort of your GNU type. Of course, these tools,
kids these days.
I used to always pgrep-lf iMac, but then I just worked with so many people who had never seen pgrep before that I would always like try to show them something with pgrep, and they're like, "Well, just run PS. I don't believe in pgrep."
Yeah.
Stop doing it.
What is this pgrep magic?
But it's
Eric says it's
like a real admin.
I see. Eric says it's sysv versus BSD.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. There's also this cute trick, because like xinet always is you're gonna find your own grep. So like what people will do is they'll do like this, like a classic script trick.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're getting fancy.
Now we are listening on port 23, God help us, which is the telnet port. So I guess we just telnet localhost.
Huh.
What?
So it opened up. It opened up a socket. We saw that it was connection. I bet it's because we don't have remote login turned on for the user.
Is that some bit that you have to set?
I don't know. Let's
thought telnet was sort of like gonna drop us into a little
like a real TTY, and it shouldn't really even matter.
But we got a message of the day here.
Let me try again. I'm gonna do loopback instead of localhost.
Yeah. We could also try to telnet in with a user.
Yeah. What's the syntax for using a user?
Maybe just user at.
I honestly have no idea.
You'll be shocked to learn I've never set this up before.
Telnet -- help. We can't scroll up. Can I pipe that to less? Yeah, we can. Okay, so here we go. Let's see what we have. We have R no login. L, of course. L is user.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what SSH uses.
Okay. And I think P is port, right?
I think it's getting port correct because we're getting the message of the day.
Yeah, I was asking because password.
Oh yeah. Why don't we read the auth log and see what the auth log says? Because this feels more like a server saying no than a client invocation incorrect.
Go for it.
Okay.
Captain Golo says, always wondered if L came from login, and today we learned it does. It does come from login.
I don't know.
You're trying to look at the auth log?
Yeah, and Debian has this nice like var log auth log, which I think is kind of a Debianism.
Yeah. We're a D message and journal cuddle family here.
Let's journal cuddle xinetd maybe? Or is that really what you do in journal cuddle is -fu?
Fuck yeah. Or heck yes.
That is the gift to sysadmins that will pay
Oh yeah.
for years.
No, I tweet about it all the time because if you're debugging the kubelet in systemd, it's journal cuddle fu kubelet. Like it's the most rewarding command ever. Okay, so yeah, we have some good login messages here. Failed login session from localhost. Auth failure.
I think you're right that we have to turn on remote login somehow.
Let's see. I really want to try, because it looks like it was trying to log in as Nicole. I really want to try to do the -L Sally.
I think what I want to do is try to show the stream something, which is that if you do like a watch,
you can use decimals with dash in and watch.
maybe.
Okay.
That didn't seem to do anything. Oh. What did I do?
It's can I type the watch command?
Yeah, because I'm patching watch to grep, not.
Yeah, so you want to do like this ps aux grep. What do you telnet?
Yeah.
That should do it. There you go.
Okay, so there's no telnet running. This is the serverless. So whether it works or not doesn't really matter. The point is that when you you're not running the telnet daemon, and then when you try to telnet in, xinetd will start one for you, and then when it's dead, it's dead. And this is...
What? Okay, hold on. Say that again. Say that again.
See how I hit up arrow on the bottom here, and it tries to telnet to look what the steady state, as verified by the PS in the top.
Mm-hmm.
Telnet-D is not running on this computer. We're not spending any resources running Telnet-D.
Okay.
And then below, we try to Telnet-D. There's actually a lag as it turns on the daemon. And then when we failed to telnet in, but xinetd is managing the telnet and turning it on and off, which is circa 2000, not that much different than how a Lambda function works.
Absolutely. So here's the real question. How does xinetd know that we're trying to establish a telnet session? Is it already it's listening on that port and it just says, oh, this looks like a telnet request?
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there. I mean, I'm reading the clay tablets. I think if I sudo, do I get the process? Is that the deal?
Let's just grab NetTools. Here.
Right. Oh, it was fine.
And now you can netstep. Well, you antelope, but you can do netstep tulpin as well.
Yeah, ANTL. You know how Unix is. You just memorize some random letters. And
yeah.
Like, I guess I'm gonna get paid to do this.
Netstep antelope.
What do you do?
So you SS antelope, but I do tulpin TLPN. But with
the I or no?
No you. Like,
and I use Unix domain sockets. What?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. But if you netstat it, you should get the process. There you go. No?
So what you're seeing over here is that xinetd has port 23 open.
Okay.
So this is essentially the same as any... I believe the term for this, if you want to sound fancy, is like port activation. And that's why they call xinetd the superserver. If we turned on all the other things, it would be listening on port 23, you do TCP. It would be listening on port 27, TCP. It would be listening on port 57, TCP or whatever. And it's just going to hold those open real chill. It doesn't do a lot. It doesn't take up a lot of processing power. It doesn't take up a lot of RAM. And then when it gets connections on them, it holds the connection open, starts the daemon, waits for the daemon to be turned on, wires them up, and then says, I'm out.
What does it do if the daemon doesn't start? Sorry, the engineer in me has all of these like implementation detail questions now.
What's the question?
What does it do if something goes wrong with starting the daemon?
Well, let's find out.
Oh, this is smart. So you're going to change the permissions of telnet-D.
Then I'm going to hit up arrow 50 times because...
Connection failed.
Ooh. So there's got to be xinetd logs somewhere.
Let's, journal cuddle xinetd. Journal cuddle fu. Fu is follow unit. You have unit files with systemd and follow my -f like in tail. But I just like doing FU because FU. So it says failed login. And I bet there's got to be a config. We got to be able to like turn the verbosity up on this thing somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, all I see is, I'm gonna verify it one more time.
Sure.
But all I see is this, like, it tried to start it and then it never heard from it again.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, nope, didn't work. Sorry, connection refused. Rejected!
Maybe, I don't know. To the Red Hat 4 docs.
Eric says we might need to kill hang up it.
Oh, kill Huppet. Well, yeah, if we modified the config file for sure.
Yeah.
I guess we can system kill.
Restart. There you go. Okay, so now we have journal catalogs.
Must specify a server in telnet.
Oh, I bet it's smart enough to try to actually start the daemon first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it was never going to work, it has some...
It doesn't even listen, right? It's just like, nope, it's not even going to work. Okay, so I have a question.
Please.
How does xinetd understand services? So like, for instance, with systemd, we have unit files, which that's kind of like the representation of a service, right? Like, you have the nginx unit file, and that defines what is nginx, what is the binary, what are the flags you pass to it, what are the environmental variables, what policy do you want to restart it with? There's all these like wonderful configuration bits. Does xinetd have a similar concept of like a per service configuration?
Well, it has these little files we've been messing with.
And is it just like systemd where you just create a new one and like then you just like reload it or whatever, and then you have poof, you have a new service?
So each of these files under xinetd.d is going to correspond to a specific Unix daemon.
Okay.
And then in here you also specify you specify a port, a socket type, which is TCP or UDP, represented here by stream or dgram. Then you come through and you say TCP anyway. And then you have, whatever these are, right?
Void and disable, yeah. Oh gosh, we could do a whole episode on disabled equals false or enabled equals true.
It does appear that there's like a user equals, root, or
I see.
Service user or something like that.
So
there's
where are we
options here. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, where are we getting the fields for this configuration from? Because I have another question for us after this.
Well, this is the default file, and then I've also got the Red Hat 4 docs open.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, heck yeah.
Which is maybe not the most efficient thing, but it sure is fun.
Okay, so the next question here, and this goes back to Kubernetes. Kubernetes has a concept of like when you configure a pod, right? Like you have like memory allocation limits and like disruption budgets, and like there's the horizontal autoscalers or CPU limits. Like there's all kinds of system resource level constraints and buffers and countdowns and all kinds of fun goodies that you can tweak. Does xinetd have a concept of like don't start telnet if we're already like at load average 2 or something?
So I don't know about that. I do know that, and in my like notes for where I wanted us to go today, what I thought would be fun for us to do is to take this, essentially this line, and try to put a more modern daemon behind it, just to see what that would be like if we have to code any practical. There's any xinetd specific stuff, or it's just TCP socket. And then I thought it might be interesting, possibly through a wrapper script or something, to try to make it like super modern. right? Like, let's not just run user bin telnet as root. Let's put that in a namespace, and then let's put some memory clamps on it and stuff like that. Because I don't think xinetd has a concept of any kind of memory clamping.
Right.
But there's nothing to say you couldn't do like an nspawn -arg 4G RAMs. I'm just making crap up. But,
yeah.
There are ways to get that to work. And as long as we're passing around, I assume this the file descriptor, I think it would just sort of work. And I think the other thing that we would, and I'm not sure if this is easier or not, basically just having a little manager that goes ahead and actually starts a Docker container and then wires everything up. And then we get some of this stuff for free. That'd be interesting as well.
Yeah, sounds like we need a shell script, make it executable, and drop it off in bin and call it a daemon.
Boom.
Bam.
DevOps.
Yeah, really. Hashtag DevOps.
Cloud native bash.net.io.
Yep.
So I'm gonna turn off our little aux here. I'm gonna turn off telnet. Can we get either the quote of the day or the echo server working?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here's 57 lines of Golang. Maybe. That was an odd little break there.
It's fine. It'll be fine.
Nothing in here says like open up Etsy Shadow and vomit at.
Go back to
bad
the.
host.
Can we just go through it really quick from the top?
Please. Do you want to drive?
Yeah. Package main, net, buff.io, string convert, thumbs, running on 3540. Listening on TCP port. We pass in a string. We handle con. This looks fine. Client cons runs in a go routine. Listen accept. Prints it out. Yep, this is exactly what we want. Yep, this is literally exactly how I would rate this. Perfect. Good to go.
Sick. So now just install Golang toolchain, but it's Arch, so that shouldn't be super bad.
Pacman install Go. Cap-S. Sudo bang bang.
That's awesome. Right? This is the other side of the coin, right? Like if you're in some Debian thing, some stuff is easier, but getting an absolutely modern Go is like, whew, hope you got 20, 30 minutes to copy and paste some commands. But this is like, give me that fresh. Give me that fresh.
Yeah. It's great. Honestly, I love Arch Linux. Everybody hates on it because it's like, you run updated packages, but you get updated curl, which is like a pain in the butt to deal with because you're compiling objects and then that breaks Qt and all these other dependencies. But like, if you're releasing modern software, having an easy to use way to get the most recent version is really, really convenient.
Yeah, well, and it's also interesting because with the growth of Brew on Mac, more and more people are accustomed to development in a rolling release, which is also basically critical for modern cloud native, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to wait around for my system to package up istio-cuddle. Like, I just need the latest istio-cuddle.
Yeah.
And at the point where you're just pulling down binaries from GitHub release pages and shoving them in bin, I mean, you think that's going to be less? I mean, that is worse than just riding the rapids of an Arch Linux, where at least you have a community that's helping you keep all those patched and patch security vulnerabilities and make sure they work together. RIP, is this from like... Does this go from like 2005 or something?
Yeah, it's on line 37. I can fix this really quick.
This was created 10 years ago. I'm sorry.
Could not accept error.error. No, it's okay.
Yeah, it's just probably could literally just put error there.
Yep. Yeah, this is ancient Go. Do we see string anywhere else? Okay. Yes, go run, echo go. Ha! Hacks! Don't call me Kris Hacker Nova for nothing.
We got him. So what was the...
got him, coach.
3550?
I
3540.
Netstep Tulpanet. That here. May I?
Please.
Oh, you got
I
it.
think I figured it out. Yeah.
That was at 3540. So test. Ah, hello. Yeet.
Okay, that's awesome. This is cool, and this will be a great little moment to end the stream on as well. So now we've got a little echo. We're going to sudo cp that to hell. Why not? Okay, now we're going to sudo cp etc xinetd.d telnet to xinetd. You an Etsy or an etc. type person, Kris?
Spencer, we've known each other a long time.
I'm just wondering. There's Etsy, there's etc.
I'm a strong Etsy girl. My brother literally says / etc.
/ etc.
He says change directory to / etc. And I'm like, oh, you want me to cd Etsy? No, change directory to / etc. cd Etsy, change directory / etc.
Well, I guess I need to come in here as Vim, as sudo Vim. I want to run this random code off the internet that's not root. I know I'm a heathen, and I don't know if Sally's gonna run it for us, but
Sally will be fine. She'll be fine. Well, she's not gonna be able to listen to a port, bro. She's not gonna be able to open a socket. She's not root.
xinetd does it for him, right?
Go on.
I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, it's not the whole point of this, but that's one of the points here is that
let's do it.
Off, 3540, so it probably wouldn't be a problem anyways. But then I think the idea is that xinetd holds the port open and then does some file descriptor passing that I don't quite understand. Port.
Not sure about Sally, but there's a nobody user there. Should be, I hope. Smiley face.
Oh, yeah, good thinking. That is how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
This seems legit. Let's try this. See anything that looks obviously going to be a no-go?
Go echo is the executable binary.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I keep looking up here. I have you right here.
Uh-huh.
No, this looks fine. Go for it.
Let's try it. And I'm also going to, just for simplicity, I'm going to turn off the telnet one.
Good call. Good call. So this is cool because I have my green screen turned on. My LA Crocs that I'm drinking is a lime LA Crocs, and so when I hold it up, it actually looks like it's a black.
Hold it up. Oh my god. It looks like you're drinking a Monster is what it looks like.
It does. No, but I promise it's an LA Crocs. You guys can see it here. It doesn't look like... I mean, we're connected to something.
It's not saying no. It's
Right.
not giving us like a TCP reset. So it's possible that xinetd expects a little more from its daemons than listen TCP and wants some signals back and forth.
What does it want, though?
Honestly, it feels like the kind of thing like TLDP, the Linux documentation project, is like, okay, service protocol combination not in Etsy services. I made up a service, and that's my fault. That's on me.
It's not in Etsy services, so xinetd doesn't... So it pulls more meta information from Etsy services on top of what's in the Etsy xinetd service file, whatever those are called.
I mean, there was a time when Etsy services was the rule of law. Clearly, it's not those days anymore, but we can dream. We can dream about those days.
It's just like Etsy modules.
Like the kernel modules?
Yeah. They don't have to be in Etsy modules anymore. It's like anarchy in kernel modules.
I did not know that.
Are you gonna let's see if I can say this. Are you going to edit Etsy services?
Service Echo expects port 7. I was just putting it on port 7.
All right, so let's edit the go. 7.
Oh God, you're right. Okay, yeah, let's just put it on. Let's make a process. Okay, yeah. All right.
There you go.
That's better.
Yeah.
Who's going to send the email to Iana? Or ICANN?
Wait, what?
When you want a new line in Etsy Services, you have to email Iana, right?
Oh my gosh. We need sound effects. I need like a button. I wonder if I can set that up really quick.
So go echo. Those are spaces. Okay, now restart kernel. Ooh, that's a good sign.
Ooh.
One available service.
Nice. Oh, hey.
3540. If we do it with sudo, oops, that was not how that works.
Sudo netstat antelope.
We can see it's actually running as xinetd, which is good. And then I think we can telnet localhost
3540. Go routine man.
Interesting.
Couldn't listen on TCP 3540.
Okay, so there is no way to just hack this together. It literally has to not be a daemon.
What do you mean it has to not be a daemon?
Okay, so what's happening here? It's trying to launch the program.
Mm-hmm.
And then Go is like, I'm going to listen on that port. That port is already in use because, of course, xinetd has it. It errors out.
Right.
So what that means is that all the daemons designed to work with a super server actually don't open the port themselves. They sort of just take a socket that's already been set up as like a file description pass.
I see. So they actually pass in the socket file descriptor and use that to start listening on.
Yeah, they actually, yeah. So, and that also explains why things like TFTP, you still see xinetd, because TFTP was never rewritten to like listen on its own port. You need a super server to get it going.
Right, and this also explains why we wrote kubeproxy.
Okay, we proved to ourselves that it won't work.
Sorry, I had to.
I love it. Exactly why you wrote kubeproxy.
I know. I'm here to be cute and make jokes. That's really why I'm here.
I want to end on one cool thing that is buried in this Red Hat docs, which I did not know. And I'm not sure if it still exists, but they sort of, you had that diagram up when you had the Red Hat 4 docs, that like flow chart.
Oh yeah, I can pull it up again.
But what they're talking about essentially in this section is how you protect your services from network problems. And they talk about essentially 3 different layers, assuming xinetd. The first layer is an IP tables rule. It's right at the top of section 17. It's just the 17.
There we go. This one.
Yeah. The first is IP tables, which still exists. I'm almost shocked that it says IP tables and not IP chains, given that it's like the year 2000. Good job, Red Hat.
In the year 2000, IP chain.
And at the bottom is xinetd doing protections. You actually, I don't think we called it out, but if you looked at those xinetd configurations,
right,
as Kris said, there's some stuff that pretty well maps to a kube pod definition, right?
Yeah, well, that's where all of this started. Like, this is where it all came from.
Right. But in the middle, there's this thing there called TCP Wrappers, which I had not heard of before. And if you scroll down just a little bit to this TCP Wrappers, what is
a TCP wrapper? That just sounds like TCP encapsulation to me.
Evidently, there's a file, at least in the 2000s, called userlib.librap.a. And all the daemons should nominally link against it. And that library is essentially it looks like it's an LD preload hack that makes sure that all daemons listen to etc host.allow and etc host.deny, which is nuts. I had no idea that was a thing.
That seems so sketch maget. Like, that's an attack vector right there. Right? Like, if you can compromise librap.a and then all of a sudden, like, there's this magical allow that you didn't know before, like, you're coming into every program that's being executed, every daemon that's being executed on this server. Sorry, hacker in me is talking.
Yes, but it's also kind of true. It's also kind of cool. It's a cool way to enforce that a system administrator can drop. If you assume that a file owned by root in user lib is not being compromised, which is it's a decent assumption to make, because if they can write to libraries in there, you're good and boned anyway. But
valid.
If as a system administrator you can assume that writing text in one etc host.allow automatically modifies the behavior of all your programs, not just some platform that's wrapping them and launching them.
Yep.
That gives you a sense of a safety that you might not have had before, in addition to being just kind of a cool hack.
I like it.
And on a Red Hat style distribution, Red Hat can tell you conclusively, because they probably have some checklist, that all of their daemons except this like weird deny list have been compiled against librap.
That's really cool.
I wonder if TCP Wrappers exists on modern system.
Well, I mean, we're running one of the latest distributions out there right now. It's up to date. All the packages in the Arch user repository are up to date as of last night.
There's no librap.
That also, librap seems like a very rel thing. I don't even think there's host allow, host deny on Arch Linux. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a rel thing, for sure.
Yeah.
That was a cool stream, Kris. What are we going to do next week?
I don't know, Brain. The same thing we do every week. Try to take over the world.
What we'll try to do is, if we have anything pithy that we come up with that we need to explain about xinetd, we'll explain that. And then we'll jump into sort of the next generation ahead of xinetd in serverless before serverless, which of course is our good friend, CGI bin. And after that, I think we'll start diving into more modern serverless technologies.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so real quick, can we take a breather and kind of go up to the, let's draw xinetd as we just saw it back to a user experience that you would see in Lambda or Kubeless or Knative or whatever, just holistically, so people even understand why it is we're even reading Red Hat 4 documentation and setting up an echo server and a telnet server and trying to pass file descriptors between sockets or between services using the same socket. Which I think this is, given a set of constraints, this was the first serverless. Yeah,
well, and the metaphor, I mean, just keeps extending, right? In the same way that when you write a Lambda function, you don't call express.listen in your code. In this, you're not writing open some port and listen on it either, because you're expecting so much to be handed to you from the platform.
Yeah.
And that's with all platforms, it's a curse and a gift, right? It's a curse in that now you have to rewrite everything or write to some constraints. It's a gift in that there's so much done for you already.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to play our intro music, and we'll see folks next week. CGI Ben.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye.